So it's just a pleasure to be here, everybody. And I do see I'm able to share my screen, so thank you so much. Well, before I do that, I just want to again thank all of you for this invitation. When Adrian said, "Hey, can you present to the NAACP?" Of course, I said yes, because this is an honored organization in our community for many, many years that has done wonderful things for many people. And so thank you for allowing me to be here to talk a little bit about transfer. I'm going to start sharing my screen and hopefully you can see it. Let me know if you don't. Can you see it? Okay, cool. I get the thumbs up. So again, my name is Dr. Janet Robinson. I'm the Transfer Center Director here at Santa Monica College, and I actually started at SMC back in 2010. I was initially hired into the Black Collegians program as a counselor here at SMC. The Black Collegians program is an Umoja program that you'll find at many community colleges that's basically there to support our students of African descent. And so that's how I got introduced to Santa Monica College. And then I moved into being a counselor for our nursing students on campus. So I did that for several years before I transitioned into being over transfer at SMC back in 2016. So I always like to begin by saying we are so fortunate in California to have access to wonderful institutions of higher education. Students don't have to leave the state if they don't want to have access to some amazing schools like our CSUs, our California State University system, which is comprised of 23 different campuses. We also have our UC system, which is made up of 10 campuses, but we really only talk about 9 when it comes to transfer because students can't transfer to UC San Francisco, but they can transfer to all of the others, only because UCSF only focuses on graduate programs. And then we also have our private colleges and universities in California. So our students in California have a lot of great, great options when it comes to seeking higher education. And I love working at a community college because I think it's a great place to start for many reasons. Sometimes I'll tell a student, look, it's competitive to get into college. If you can apply and get into the school of your dreams, then off you go. But if you don't get into the school that you initially wanted to right out of high school, or you got in, but the cost was a little prohibitive for you at the time, or if you aren't quite sure what you want to do, you're still figuring it out, community college is a great place to start because not only can you save a lot of money coming to a community college, but you can take the same classes here that you would have taken at a 4-year college had you gone directly there from high school. So we give you an opportunity to still take classes and transfer to the 4-year school of your choice. I've had one of my colleagues, I love that they said it's a second chance at your first choice because sometimes students apply to 4-year schools right out of high school, but they don't get in. And then they're heartbroken. And we say, hey, another way to approach this is going to a community college first and then applying. Because most 4-year schools have spots to admit not just freshman applicants, those are students coming right out of high school, but they save spots just for transfer students. And that's a beautiful thing. And I love also working at community college because we get everybody here. We get the traditional age students that are coming right out of high school and come to us, but we also get those students who might be lifelong learners, just taking classes for fun. Still take or and transfer to oh, I hear a little bit of
I'm
echo.
sorry. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I should have muted myself.
That's okay. That's okay. But again, I was just talking about why I just love working at the community college level because the breadth of students that you get to work with, people who have been working but want to maybe shift gears and maybe do a different career. Sometimes they come to community college to take classes to make that shift. Or someone is in a career and they love it, but they want to kind of make sure that they kind of tool up with the latest information or training. So they come to community college. Or again, just taking classes for fun. Maybe you always wanted to learn how to play guitar or learn a language. We're here for you. That's the community in community college. So it's a beautiful place to work. But again, Adrian wanted me to specifically talk about the transfer piece. And so, having said that, when you're talking about your options within California, you have kind of like this ladder in terms of costs, right? And so the most affordable place to start in terms of completing college coursework would be at the California Community College. And again, there are 116 of us across the state. I'm a little biased because I think SMC is the best, but we're certainly not the only one in the game. But we are at $46 per unit. And that's a legislated cost, by the way. It's set by the state. And so going to any California community college, that is kind of the sticker price in terms of the cost per unit to go to a community college. And at community college, we offer classes just for fun, or you can earn a certificate, which is kind of taking classes in one particular area, maybe just a couple classes or a few classes, or you can get an associate's degree, which is a college degree, right? Um, some students come to community college and they say, you know what, while I'm at community college, I do want to get a degree before I move on and I transfer to a four-year school. And some students come to community college and say, I don't want to get a degree while I'm here. I just want to come to community college to take classes and move on to a four-year school. The first degree I want to focus on completing is my bachelor's. We give you that option as well at community college. In terms of cost, after you move up from community college, then we're talking about going to a CSU. And what you see I've kind of done here are the little steps on the ladder going up. You kind of see how it gets more expensive as you go higher. So going from community college to CSU to UC to private, that dollar amount that it's going to cost you in terms of tuition and fees is going to go up. But I'm always honest with students in the community about this cost. But of course, I always say never let the cost of going to an institution scare you from applying or going. Because what else do we have? We have financial aid available to us, and we also have scholarships available to us. But I do think it's important, though, just to even educate people on, generally speaking, what are we talking about in terms of the cost to go to college in California. So at the top of my ladder, I just use an example of a private school here in our state, and that's USC. And so kind of looking at that sticker price for a year of tuition at SC is no joke. But like I said, we also have financial aid and scholarships available to students to help them pay for college. I won't go into much detail just in the interest of time, because I know Adrian told me I had about 15 minutes. But I just want to let you know that most times, if you have a four-year college or university that you want to transfer to, I tell students the first thing you want to find out is what's the minimum number of units I need to complete at the community college before I can transfer to that school. And it varies by school. It's not the same for everybody. But in California, the minimum number of units you typically need to have to go to any of the UCs or the Cal States is 60. Okay. And half of those units are what we call general education. And sometimes I explain general education by saying, in some countries, whatever you study in college, those are the only classes you take. So in some countries, if you are a accounting major, you only take accounting courses and that's it. Or if you are a history major, you take history courses and that's it. But in the United States of America, we believe that if you're a college student, no matter what your major is, and your major is what you're passionate about, what you want to focus on. No matter what your major is, we believe that you need to take a breadth of classes across different areas to make you a well-rounded citizen. So that's why everybody in college is going to have to take a little bit of English, a little bit of math, a little bit of science, no matter what your major is, because that's general education. So if you're in college, you are going to have to take some general education and possibly take some electives, depending on what your major is that you're focused on. But again, the minimum number of units to transfer is going to vary depending on what type of school you want to go to. In terms of minimum requirements to go to any of the 23 CSUs, you're looking at, again, those 60 units that I just talked about, minimum units to complete at a community college if you want to apply to transfer to a CSU. And again, half of those units do have to be that general education that I talked about. And also the GPA to go to any of the CSUs has to be at least a 2.0, a cumulative 2.0 GPA in your coursework you've taken at the community college. The CSU system also says as part of those 60 units, there's 4 areas that they're really looking for, checking for on your transcripts when you apply. They call them the golden 4. And basically that turns out that they're looking for a speech class that you've done. They're looking for an English course, actually a couple of English courses, and then a transferable level math class. Okay, so this is just minimum requirements for a CSU. But what we always explain to students at SMC is that in order to be competitive to some of the CSU campuses and some of the majors at the CSU campuses, these are just minimums you see on the screen in front of you. You're going to have a higher GPA probably than what you see here, the 2.0. May not be high enough to get you into a major like, say, business administration at Cal State Long Beach or engineering at, say, Cal State LA. So sometimes the minimums, I always tell students there's a difference between admissible and being competitive. Okay. Moving on to the UCs, similar in that they also want that 60 units completed at a minimum at a community college. They have a slightly higher GPA. They want you to have a 2.4 if you're a California resident, or 2.8 if you're a non-California resident. And then just like the Cal State system is looking for the golden 4 as part of their 60 units, the UCs have something we sometimes like to call the silver 7 or the sacred 7. And those 7 classes are, again, they're looking for 2 English classes, at least 1 transferable level math. You see, you can't get away from math. Sometimes I tell students that too. We see students come to community college and sometimes they're like, oh, math is not my thing. And they run from taking math. And I try to encourage them to lean into whatever class that's kind of scaring them or triggering some anxieties, whether it's math or science or English. I always tell them, don't be afraid, just take full advantage of all the resources that we have available to you on campus, like the tutoring and going to office hours. And I try to tell them there's no shame in going to tutoring or going to talk to the teacher. It doesn't mean anything's bad. It just means you want to protect your investment now that you're in college. You're investing a lot in terms of your money and your time. So those are kind of just minimum requirements for the UCs you see in front of you right now. And again, same thing I said before, just because the UC says you have to have at least a 2.4 GPA to be competitive to some of the UC campuses like UCLA and Berkeley, for some of the majors, you're going to have a much higher GPA to be seriously considered for admission to some of those campuses and majors. And then in terms of private schools, it can be all over the map. Private schools, are in a situation where sometimes they can do whatever they want to do. And what I mean by that is, let's use USC for an example. If you ask USC, what's the minimum number of units you have to have completed at a community college to transfer? And they'll tell you, oh, we don't have a minimum number of units. But if you keep talking to them, they'll say, if you have less than 30 units and you apply to transfer to USC, we want to see those high school transcripts. And we're going to weigh our decision about whether to admit you is going to it's going to weigh a little bit or more heavily on how you did in high school. But USC will tell a community college student, if you complete more than 30 units before you apply to transfer to us, then we'll rely more heavily on what you've done at the community college level. And I love that because I tell students, if you didn't have the best grades in high school, coming to community college is a way to kind of hit the reset button and start all over again. And you can be the type of student you're destined to be if you make some changes, right? So I tell students, like, maybe you had a lot of distractions in high school. Maybe if those things have been minimized, you've learned how to deal with them better now. You can do better. Or maybe you weren't putting as much time and energy into your classes, but you are committed to that now. You can do it. So I like to tell students community college is also a way to hit the reset button. So the minimum number of units and GPAs and units that they'll accept kind of will be all over the map and vary for private schools. So what does that mean? When a student is here at a community college, one of the first things I encourage you to do is sit down and meet with a counselor, because then that counselor is going to ask you, what is your goal? Do you want to transfer? Where do you want to transfer? And what major do you have in mind? And then based on that, we'll do our best to help you map out your classes or put together what we call an ed plan to move towards that goal. And if you don't know it right away, that's okay too. We'll usually have you start by just taking some general education classes because you need those anyway. As I explained earlier, that's part of the whole process of college. And sometimes along the way of just taking general ed, sometimes students discover a passion. Maybe they took psychology just because it was a GE, a general education class, but they're like, oh my God, I love that class. It was so much fun. What other classes could I take here? And we'll tell them, you know what, that might be that this is a good major for you. So meeting with a counselor is a really good step to help you navigate your way through community college and try to help you not feel like you're taking a bunch of classes here that aren't applying towards anything. And you look up in a couple years and you've been here and you really don't know how much closer you are towards your goal, or you feel like you've taken classes that aren't moving you towards your goal. That's why it's helpful to meet with a counselor. And I always try to tell students, you don't have to navigate this process by yourself. We're here to assist you and make this whole process a little bit more digestible, especially if a student is the first person in their family to go to college. Okay, so I talked about the UCs and the Cal States and private schools in California just because I said I do think that that's a benefit for our students in our state. But that's not their only option. And I'm on a mission to make sure that our students at Santa Monica College know about all their transfer options. For example, and I think Adrian already talked about it, we had MIT on campus this evening. And they were talking to students, and I want students to know, yes, you can transfer to an Ivy League school from a community college. It's not impossible. So I love kind of letting students know what all of their options are. So another great option for our students is going to a HBCU. And back in, I think it was in 2015, the California Community College Chancellor's Office kind of sat down, thanks to Elaine Moore. If anybody knows the great Elaine Moore, who worked at El Camino for many years, she kind of was the one who led the charge to really start building bridges between California community colleges and HBCUs. So there is also a TAG agreement, and that's a really important acronym. I always say we love our acronyms in college, and one of them is TAG. It stands for Transfer Admission Guarantee. And I wish I could say that every single college on the globe offers a transfer admission guarantee, but they don't. But there's a handful that do. And of the 107 HBCUs that we have in the United States, there are over 30 that do offer a TAG agreement, a transfer admission guarantee to any California community college student that's interested in coming. And so what you see on the screen in front of you right now are a couple of routes that the student can take. And I won't go into detail unless you'd like me to, but the bottom line is similar to what I talked about earlier, that students who are kind of putting themselves in position to go to a UC by making sure they complete 60 units, we kind of want to also let them know by doing that, you can also unlock your transfer options to a HBCU. So that's option one. Or if a student goes, 60 units, I'm trying to get in and out here as quickly as possible. There's another route they can take to get to an HBCU that is half the units, only having 30 units they complete at the community college. But I love the fact that HBCUs are an option for our students, even though we don't have any here on the West Coast. I know sometimes we talk about Charles Drew University, but actually I learned that in order to be a HBCU, you have to have been created before 1964. And so Charles Drew technically is not an HBCU, but it's a historically Black serving institution, primarily Black serving institution, or a PBI. But that's the closest we have in California is Charles Drew. But I wanted to share with you some of the benefits of students who do go to an HBCU. And I don't know if any of you attended an HBCU, but there's so many benefits. Just a sense of community, being surrounded by majority students and faculty that look like you, which is not always the case. If you go to a PWI, predominantly white institution, one of the things built into this tag that we have with the partner HBCUs is they get priority consideration for housing. So they have a place to stay on or near campus if they go to one of these partner campuses. And just having somebody there to provide you with some support to kind of navigate your way from California to an HBCU. And if you're curious, These are some of the partner schools that said, hey, California community colleges, if you follow one of those routes, we've got a spot for you here on our campus. And so as you can see, it may not be all of the HBCUs in the US, but new schools are being added every year. Um, so I'm happy about that too. And I think it's not on this list, but actually Morehouse recently came on board. So we're just really excited about that. And this is why I also want to give a shout out to Adrian again, because for the past couple of years at SMC, we've been offering a HBCU panel where we ask any of our faculty, staff that went to a HBCU to come talk about it and be on a panel and say, why did I choose to go to HBCU? What were the pros and cons of it? What did I get out of it? What advice would I give to you? And Adrian's been on that panel now since we started it, him and some other colleagues here. And it's really wonderful for our students. And then afterwards, we go upstairs and break bread and have food with each other. The students can even get another opportunity to talk to some of my colleagues about their HBCU experience. So kind of just being mindful of time. If I kind of had to give you some tips, if you have family members, children, grandchildren, you yourself are thinking about coming back to community college, the thing you can do to make yourself the most attractive transfer applicant as possible is to make sure that you are really paying attention to your education planning, which is what we call making sure you're taking the right classes. And making sure you lean into those English and math courses because they really are kind of foundational to college. And so they're important for students to kind of knock those out and complete those as soon as possible. And then just staying conscious of the GPA that you're going to need to make you competitive to the campus and major that you have in mind. Also, a couple of resources or tools that I like to say are critical to a transfer student mapping out their way is this website, assist.org. It is a tool that's not just available to counselors, but we use it like multiple times a day. This is where we can go. Www.assist.org is where you can go and it'll basically say, okay, where are you? You can say, I'm at Santa Monica College. It'll say, where do you want to go? You can say, I want to go to UCLA. It'll say, what major do you want at UCLA? You can type in psychology. And then what it will do is spit out a report that basically tells you what classes you need to take at Santa Monica College if you want to transfer to UCLA and major in psychology. These are major prep classes that are very important for students to be aware of, add into their education plan, and try to do as well in these classes as possible in order to transfer and be competitive to the campuses and the majors that they have in mind. And then just some other resources I included on here is like a link to create a TAP account, which is an account you can create for free if you're interested in going to the UC system, where in theory, they have something similar to for the CSU system called Transfer Planner. The way both of these work is that a student, as they matriculate their way through community college, they can go in every term and list what classes they're taking that term. Like say, for example, for students at SMC right now, they can log into either of these platforms and say, here are the classes I'm taking in fall 2024. And then when the semester ends and their grades post, they would go back in and post their grades. And in theory, as they're matriculating through community college, they're basically putting in all of their classes and grades. And then when they are ready to apply for transfer to the UC system and the Cal State system, they can push a button on the application platform and it'll sync in all of their classes and grades that they had been loading in as they matriculated. So it's a great tool for students to have. Also at Santa Monica College, and we're no different, other community colleges have the same thing. We always encourage students to get connected with some special programs on their campus because research has shown that students are more likely to be successful if they feel a part of a community. They have that sense of belonging because they are connected to someone on campus. So those are things like our Black collegians or Umoja communities that I referenced earlier, or Scholars program is our honors program here at SMC. And just learning about the different agreements and strategies that are in place for you, like those tags that I talked about to the HBCU, or there's a tag to go to 6 of the UCs, or a tag to go to a Cal State if you've completed an associate degree for transfer. So there's a lot of little ways that a student can start to strategize their transfer process. But like I said, they're not expected to know that off top. It's a lot. So that's why we're here as counselors on campus and why I do a gazillion workshops during the year, just to try to make the process, demystify it and make it seem a little bit more doable and fun. Kind of take the anxiety out of transfer and instead give them something to look forward to. So just my biggest tips would be making sure they take the right classes, and finding out what those minimum units are to get to the campus they have in mind. I like to tell students, yeah, it's not all about GPA, but don't get it twisted. GPA is very important. So the higher your GPA, typically the more options you are going to have when it comes to transfer. Leaning into that English and math or whatever it is that scares you. Don't run from it, but instead lean in and get the support that you need, and getting involved with a special program on campus to help you feel supported. And when a student feels like they want to give up, you got somebody there to be like, nah, keep going. I got you. It's okay. A brighter day is coming. Don't give up. Let's go study together. Come talk to me about what's going on so you can pour a little out so you feel like you got capacity to keep going. And then getting involved, with different clubs and organizations as well. Oh, and another big thing that's really big in recent years is we're trying to front load career advising and career counseling. I don't know about you all, but when I was in college, it used to be you didn't go talk to a career counselor until it was your senior year or you were graduating. You're like, oh, it's time for me to look for a job. Well, we're trying to flip that now. And we're trying to talk to students as soon as they get to college and say, hey, what kind of career do you have in mind? Let's begin with the end in mind and start talking about that now. And maybe even encourage them while they're matriculating and taking classes to also start doing some internships, or some jobs that are going to also put them in position to do what they want to do long term. So, all exciting stuff. And I again thank you for your time. This is just kind of like a quick and dirty transfer 101. But if you have any questions, I am happy to answer them.
Well, I do have one question. You do see Fisk University behind me, right?
I do, sir. Right on this guy in the house.
So I wanted to say thank you so much for demystifying this process. But I do have a question. Now, and this is something that, I teach in the College of Ethnic Studies. I teach in the
Oh,
Department of Ethnic Studies.
okay, okay.
And so we are many times, unless a student is majoring in ethnic studies or majoring in Pan-African studies, they have taken those courses at the community college. Is that correct?
I would say those courses are pretty popular, especially amongst our students of color.
Right.
I think it's because, as I mentioned earlier, they have to take some general ed, but we
Right.
encourage them, take some general ed that's a topic that's really of interest to you, because if you're interested, hopefully you're going to do well, and that helps your GPA. So I can see why you're saying you are noticing at the 4-year level that students have already taken a lot of those classes at the community college. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. So I know that they have, since they enacted that new law,
Mhm.
I've even gotten calls saying, we need people to teach
Yes.
ethnic studies, Pan-African studies. And so and so now I don't know if you are aware, but we have a new master's program in Pan-African studies,
Oh, okay.
deliberately trying to meet that need. We're the second College of Ethnic Studies in the country. And so now
Awesome.
we have a Pan-African Studies degree. So just remember that when you are
I
talking to, and I'm also recruiting for Cal State LA as well. So
Okay,
I'll
right on. I was just there
hopefully,
this morning. I was on your campus this morning because
yeah,
this
that was a big meeting. I don't know what it was, but
it
it
was
was,
just for the CSU
yeah,
conference, but you guys hosted it, so thank you for hosting it. It's a beautiful campus. I love Cal State LA. It's like a jewel in the city in Southern California. It's a beautiful, beautiful school with a lot of great majors, a lot of diversity on that campus. So I always tell students, if you want to go someplace where you see a lot of Black and brown students walking around, Cal State LA is one of them.
yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Ew.
And I'll definitely be in touch.
Please feel free. Feel free. Okay, everyone.
Thank you, Janet. Is anybody else?
Anybody else have any questions? That means it was a great presentation.
Well, thank you. Okay,
No,
all right.
no questions at this time. I just wanted to thank her for the excellent presentation.
Thank you. Thank you so
Learned
much.
a lot, saw a lot. Really appreciate it.
I do. I appreciate the invitation. Thank you all so much. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and let's, get folks registered to vote and get them to the polls, and let's do what we need to do. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful
Okay.
evening. Take care. God bless.
You too. Take care.
Thank you. Good
Janet.
night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Yeah, she was phenomenal. She was simply phenomenal.
Well, she's running the #1 transfer center in America, so it's not an easy task. And if you see some of the scholarships that come out of SMC, I mean, she sent a kid to Harvard last year with a full ride. So she knows what she's doing, and he was Black.
Okay. Well, we got 7 minutes left. So we don't just have to fill them. We can get out early if we like.
That's absolutely fine, sir. I think the agenda is set. We know we have to get the rest of this coordinating committee together, and then we'll talk about actionables with trying to deal with the LAUSD problems that are ongoing and actually get some agendas and meeting with the chairperson so we can sit down and actually plot out an agenda and also find out what other organizations we're going to co-partner with to continue to add pressure. So
Absolutely. So and
if
since
there be no more, James.
yeah, since this is live, we, for those of you who are
Dr.
watching
Bennett's
this
trying to
live,
speak.
yeah, I see you, Dr. Bennett. For those who are watching this live, we just wanted to be clear that there are some serious issues going on with Black students regarding racial violence and bullying, and we as the NAACP are committed to doing whatever we can to stop it. And so we'll be reaching out to you all at some future time to help you join us and mobilize with us to bring an end to it. So that's all I have. Dr. Bennett, you want to say something?
Hey, I was just wondering, was there any upcoming events happening? Sponsored by
They, there's some tentative event. There's a tentative event scheduled, but we'll talk to you more about it. We'll let you know.
Okay, that was all.
Okay. Adrian, you want to just pray us out?
Bow your heads with me. God, we thank you for this time together. We thank you for our guest speaker. We thank you for the knowledge that has been pushed and pulled and prodded tonight, oh Lord. Let it not be in vain. Let us go forward to do that which you have us to do. Bless us with safe travels to our homes tonight, oh God, and let us begin the work in the morning that you would have us to do, one by one and together, unbreakable. In the mighty and matchless name of Jesus, we pray, amen.
Amen. All right. Well, I will see you, beautiful people. Goodbye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.